Welcome, dear listeners, to episode 19 of The Power of You. I'm here with the fabulous Bill Harvey, and we're excited to get going today. So, Bill, great to be with you, although not in person this time, which is quite upsetting. But anyway, so the topic that has been swirling around my brain all of today is about the word preparation. So this has kind of been bubbling up in me. I don't know whether you've seen any of the Olympics, but I've been kind of passively taking an interest in it, and it made me really think about an athlete's mindset and how as part of our growth and evolution, like preparation is key to being able to perform at a high level, right? And I think the Olympics is a great example of that, and the athletes that are in there, because when you watch them on the ice or watch them on the snow, you see them do these 3 minutes of a performance. And it made me reflect and think, how many times have they had to prepare for that particular moment, right? The Olympics come once every 4 years and they're on there for 3 minutes. And it made me think about the importance of preparation and in our growth journeys, essentially, and how the preparation actually is what makes us become the evolved version of ourselves. It's not the execution itself at the, at the Olympics 4 years later. The work they've done in private is now being seen in public. So I guess today I really wanted to dig into the topic of preparation and the importance of it when we think about our own growth and evolution. So perhaps to start, be great to hear your perspective, Bill, on the importance of preparation.
It's great that you used the Olympics as an example, because it's all about the flow state. I mean, obviously, there's no way to win a medal in any other state other than the flow state. So we have the pleasure and the thrill of watching people who have prepared possibly all their lives, practicing daily at the same thing with determination, and also mentally and emotionally preparing themselves. We'll go into that in great depth on this podcast, to attain the flow state. So you're competing against other people in the flow state. So it comes down to let the best person win. The best person as defined by what the genes have provided, what the nurture in the home and the family has provided in terms of preparation. That lays down the basic wiring, the basic foundation. And there's dangers in there of attachment. Like if you have strict parents who are trying to drive you toward the Olympics or to be a great ballerina or a great musician or a great whatever, and they are sternly driving you and with pressure and expectation, and making you yourself become attached to the outcome, where, gosh, if you don't win, your parents are going to hate you. They're going to be angry at you, blah, 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 blah. That's going to take you right out of the flow state. You might as well kiss the medal goodbye and not even compete if you're going to go off in that headspace. So those are just a few of my initial thoughts, but this is fertile ground. Let's get into that.
Yeah, it's what you're sharing there. It's nature versus nurture, and I think there is, in whatever your sport is, whether it be business, whether it be parenthood, whether it be running, a hobby, whatever your sport is, there is both those elements, isn't there? There's the nature or the genetics of your makeup and who you are. And then there's also the nurture. So, and this is the part I think that the preparation comes in, and that preparation can look like so many things. Yes, like physically preparing, but also mentally. And I think it's here that these small incremental improvements, and I think of athletes, right? They need to constantly go through this process of like practicing, but then reviewing what they did, like in great detail, being able to zoom out, look at how they performed, and then notice areas that they can improve, right? And how they can shave a second off, or they wear a different trainer and they go faster, things like that. They have, the athlete's mindset is very much about do the thing, but then constantly zoom out, review how they performed, and then in great detail, and then they can make it these incremental improvements. So that preparation is mental and physical, but I think the approach is similar. It's this art and this ability to self-reflect continuously to make these small incremental improvements. And I think if more of us took that mindset into like our everyday lives, because we are athletes in whatever our chosen field or sport is, but I think we so often spend the time just executing and not enough time stepping back, reviewing, refining, tweaking, and improving. And I think that that's a mindset that we could really all learn from, and it would yield us great results and improvements, but also just more satisfaction as well, to be able to see these constant incremental improvements, because you can't see that if you're not looking for it.
I love the inner focus. And there's also a couple of other elements, one of which is getting away from it all and blanking the mind and taking vacations of 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, walking in nature, not thinking about it. That's when observations will pop up from the subconscious mind that are really valuable. That if you like when you try to remember a word, it only pops into your head when you stop trying to remember it. That's a more general function, and it applies in this case where you have to get away from it in order for the creativity to pop into your head. You also do well to observe other people, role models, how they do it, how they, for example, hold their hands in golf versus the way you hold your hands in golf, and blah, blah, blah. All of those details. Musicians observing other musicians, learning about different breathing techniques for wind instruments. It gets down to a fine art, and the ability to focus on any subject gives you incredible improvement in that subject area. So you have to make sure that you're not being forced into this by somebody else, and you really have to love what you're doing. And if you love what you're doing, then it's play, and you're less likely to fall into this totally unconstructive attachment to not losing. If you're attached to not losing, you're going to lose.
Yeah.
You're not going to get maximum performance if you're attached to not losing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's the first thing that maybe would perhaps help people, because I think a lot of people struggle with finding their sport if you to use a metaphor, right? And you said there, you have to love it. And I think the first challenge is that a lot of us aren't doing what we love. We're doing something that either, as you've said, maybe our parents have kind of ushered us into, maybe it's a societal expectation. Maybe we've found ourselves living a life that isn't actually ours, or we we didn't consciously remember choosing. It just kind of happened. And I think that's the first thing, because you said that you have to love it. You actually have to love it, because the joy and the growth is found in the process of that. And if you don't love the sport in which you find yourself playing, then of course, like every obstacle is going to feel like 20 times harder, because you have got an attachment, like, oh well, this needs to work because this is I don't know what else I would do if I wasn't doing this, right? There is this attachment there, because we're doing what we're supposed, we believe that we should and are supposed to do. But actually, if you take away that expectation, we don't know who we are. we actually don't know who we are. So it is kind of like we're putting this expectation on ourselves, but then that is also stopping us from enjoying the process and enjoying our sport. So I think the first thing is how do people find their sport before we then take them onto this, the athlete's mindset, if you like, of preparing, reviewing, like refining, improvement, and not being scared to fail or lose, because actually that's just part of the process, and you're playing a sport in which you love.
It would help if parents had kind of a guidebook to follow with brand new babies, and started to communicate with the baby at the earliest possible stage about all of the things you can do, baby, when you get bigger and stronger, and you can walk and talk and do all kinds of things you see us doing, your parents. So let's keep track of what you do really well and enjoy doing, because if we can find what you really do well, what you have a talent for naturally and you enjoy, let's keep a list of those things. Now you're 1 year old, let's review it. It's your birthday. It's the time to review. What have we learned about what are you good at and what do you enjoy doing? Now that's going to change for the next 15, 20 years, but there'll be a pattern that we can see as we discuss it together.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to force you into any direction. We want to help evoke what you naturally flow toward, mm-hmm. so that you can have a fantastic life. And mm-hmm. It turns out when you're fulfilling what makes you happy, you're going to make other people happy. They'll watch you perform, or they'll work with you as co-workers in an office or any environment, and they'll enjoy working with you because you're good at what you do and you're good at helping them do what they do, and you're having a good time, so that'll rub off on them. If we were doing that as a culture, if we had that as an ideology instead of making money and rat race and blah blah blah, we would see more athletic performances in all fields.
Yeah.
But people they can change. It's never too late to change. Mm. You can change your field when you're 90 years old. It doesn't matter. Wherever you find yourself, you can say, okay, I hear you. I hear you, Natalie. I hear you, Bill. It's true. This thing that I've been doing as a kind of like break away on weekends sometimes and do it, I could probably turn it into a vocation. I could maybe make some money out of it. Maybe I could gradually move away from what I'm doing, which I'm working for a toxic boss. The whole thing turns me off. I need the money, so I'm going to keep doing it. but I'm going to figure out a way, working nights, weekends, and so on, start a kind of a gig where I'm using my real talents, and maybe I can gradually shift my weight to the gig where I'm having a good time, and eventually give up the work that I'm doing just for the money.
Yeah. So there's quite a lot in there, right? It is about, actually, part of the preparation to find your sport is this encouragement, or from a young age, right? In an idealistic world, like, you'd have parents and people around you encouraging you that you can do anything that you want to do, and that, you know, being an artist isn't a silly idea, or being an actress or being a singer, like, it is possible. And I think in order for that to happen, you know, parents' mindsets, they need to have that mindset that anything's possible, because if they don't have that mindset, how can they possibly pass that on to their children, right? So I think in an idealistic world, absolutely, because our talents are prevalent from when we are a small child, right? That's probably when they're most prevalent, because we don't have all this conditioning and layers on top of ourselves. So in an ideal world, yes, I mean, we would encourage all children to explore their passions, what they're good at, what they enjoy, and but I think the struggle there is, you know, when parents haven't necessarily been given that same encouragement when they were kids, they don't know how to do that for their children. So it is this kind of generational thing, isn't it, in terms of the mindset, and being able to encourage and review, like, your talents. So I think there's that. But then also, you know, when we think about the how we move that forward, right? So if we think about, okay, well, we need to create more adults, right, that are able to think in this way, right? So how do we create more adults that are, you know, believe that everything is possible, and believe that they can try new things? And you mentioned there about a bridge, and this is what I think is important. It doesn't mean to, like, in order to pursue your passions, or what you're great at, you don't need to quit everything today. And I think that's like a big fear, right? It's like, oh, well, you're telling me to do what I love, but I need to pay my bills. I've got, like, kids and a mortgage, right? I think to pursue our passions, it doesn't need to be this all or nothing kind of mentality. It can be, as you said, maybe it's an art project that you enjoy doing at the weekend, or maybe it is you just have a passion for music, or whatever that is. It doesn't need to start or even ever be your full-time job, but we need to create space for that exploration. And I think, you know, as part of when we think of preparation, so many of us don't create the space and time for that exploration, because I think exploration kind of scares a lot of us, because if we were to explore, then we're not sure what we might find out, right? And I think that process of being okay, one, in your own company, two, having your own time to explore your own art or passion or project, is really, really important. But I do understand in a modern society how we can feel constrained to be able to do that, because everybody's living a busy life. But I think intentionally creating pockets or space in which you can slow down. You was talking about going for walks or spending time in nature. If we can intentionally start to build that time up, and it doesn't need to be like, oh, I'm going to dedicate, you know, every weekend now for the next, you know, 3 months. It doesn't need to be as big a leap as that. But I think it goes back to kind of these incremental steps, and how can you build this space and time for exploration in your weekly schedule.
It starts, I think, partially with preparation to be a success at whatever you're now doing to make money on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you might not be you may be a round peg in a square hole, and you may not like where you are, and you may have a toxic boss and toxic coworkers. There may be, a very common situation that a lot of us live with. Nevertheless, you got to start where you are. And you've got to know where you want to be, where you want to go to. You want to know what you're good at and what you're not currently good at, that you're going to need to be good at in order to do two things: completely succeed at what you're now doing, as a first step to bridging over to what you want to be doing. Because you want to get good job references from the people you're now working with. Also, you want to build up your own confidence that you have all the skill sets you need. Let's say you want to do anything artistic or creative. Well, half of that's marketing yourself. And marketing yourself is quite closely related to working with coworkers in any situation. Interpersonal communication skills are crucially important, whatever direction you want to go in. So preparing for the next day, you've heard me say this before, the night before, you get into bed, you close your eyes, your spouse is sleeping already, your cat and dog are sleeping on you, whatever. Nobody's bothering you. You actually have your mind to yourself now. Now let's plan tomorrow. Let's prepare for tomorrow with mental rehearsal. Athletes are all about mental rehearsal. Seeing yourself do it as if you were there, vividly, pre-living it, seeing yourself doing it in exactly the perfect way. Now, while you're doing that in the current context of you're not necessarily an athlete, you're a normal, average human being with insecurities, and you don't feel good about yourself all the time, or perhaps ever. And tomorrow you're looking forward to a day doing work that's drudgery to you, and you just want to get it over with, and everybody's going to be annoying and blah, blah, blah. So, but you're going to project a different kind of a day where you're going to get an idea how you can help this person, specifically an idea for that person. You know what they've been trying to do. It hasn't occurred to you to try to think of helping them. But now think of helping them. You may not come up with the idea in time for tomorrow, but you'll see them the next day also. Work on how you can help each of your coworkers, also people above you and below you. Think about those things. Gradually, those ideas will pop into your mind. You'll be prepared to have better and better days using that time just before you fall asleep.
Yeah, this visualization is part of that preparation. So yes, I mean, there's preparation to find your sport of choice, right? But even if you're not there yet, right? Like part of your preparation to find your sport of choice is mentally preparing, is this visualization of your day. And I think this is actually really important. I don't think many of us do this. We kind of we start a day, and then it's a bit like a tumble dryer, right? Or we go in, the day is like, and then it spits us out the other side, right? And we just, we let the meetings pile up. We let, be dragged from one email, one meeting, one place to another. But actually, if we do what you're suggesting, which is to take a few moments, just you're in bed, you're relaxing before you go to sleep, to mentally prepare or visualize the day, that's already going to set you up in such a better way than just say, I'm going to see what's going to hit me today, and then just let the tumble dryer do its thing and then spit you out at the other side. Being able to actually be intentional about how you want your day to go is a huge it's a huge indicator and actually, or driver as to how your day will go. Because it's like, if you tell yourself something is awful, it becomes awful. If you're visualizing or mentally telling yourself, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to do this and it's going to feel really great when I'm done. And then I'm going to go on and see that person or solve this problem or get that project done. Like, then when you tell yourself that, and then when you execute and do the things that you visualized or planned, you feel a sense of accomplishment. You feel good about yourself. And these things that perhaps, like, when the day just just happens, you're always probably accomplishing things, but you've not taken the time to be intentional and say, like, these are the things that I'm going to get done today, and this is how I'm going to feel afterwards. So actually, when you're intentional about how you want your day to go, how you want to feel, and then you accomplish that, you feel great, right? You feel great for something that maybe before you were doing and had not really any awareness that you were doing it. so even if nothing else, it's going to give you clarity for your day to day, but it's also going to give you this sense of accomplishment too. So that is important as a process to visualize. But I think not just the actions and the doing, but also the feeling. And I think the feeling is so important. And I've mentioned this before, right? Because it doesn't take for our life to change for us to feel differently. Like, feeling differently about a situation is a choice, and your external reality could look exactly the same as it did yesterday, but when you intentionally choose to feel a certain way, it can totally change how you perceive that day itself. So feeling is so important, not just to be intentional about what you're doing, but also about what you're feeling. Because when we choose to feel joy, we choose to feel gratitude, or love, any of these emotions are a choice, and we can set that intention with this preparation. And when we choose those feelings, not only do we feel more accomplished, but we also we also enjoy the process so much more, rather than letting the day just attack us and spit us out at the other side.
Most people don't realize they can choose their feelings. And when they first hear it, it sounds absurd to people. Sometimes they are shocked and can't believe their ears that somebody's even saying that, because they feel so those emotions well up and they're overwhelming. And it's like saying you could, get into a boxing ring with a professional boxer and win. The professional boxer is going to win. The emotions are going to win. Not true. It goes way back. We've talked about my favorite Stoic, Epictetus, who had been a slave, and then he wrote this book, The Enchiridion, and he lived this truth that, and I live this truth, and many people have learned how to do this. You've obviously learned how to do this, that you can, through determination, willpower, courage, and sheer grit, you just say, look, this is it. I'm going to have a happy life. First of all, I've been lucky up till now just to be alive and to have certain things I do well. And I've been able to make a living, and I've been able to get through the days and so on. And now I see there's something I really want to do. I'm going to gradually move in that direction. I see the plan. I see the steps. I'm going to do it, or I'm going to die trying, but I'm going to enjoy the journey every moment. I'm going to enjoy every moment, because why would I be wasting my time not enjoying every moment? I could be dead. I could get hit by a bus. I might as well enjoy every possible moment. Unless, they've got me strapped to a torture rack and they're torturing me. Until that point, I'm going to enjoy myself. They could be annoying me. They could be insulting me. They could be humiliating me. They could be mortifying me. I'm not going to let it get to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so there, I win. No matter what you do to me, I win. I lose the contest. That's fine. I accept it. Move on. I learned from it. I'll do better next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the feeling is a choice, and for you, it's like, okay, no, I'm choosing to enjoy myself, right? No matter what happens. And I definitely have a positive outlook on life, and sometimes to my detriment, where I don't like I kind of ignore reality. So, but I think there is there is a thing to be said for that. Like, how you feel or choose to feel is a choice, right? But I think a lot of the anxiety or worry that comes in is because we're not in the present, right? We're worried about something either that happened in the past or that may or may not happen in the future. And that's what stops us enjoying the now so much, because we're worried about something that hasn't happened, might not happen. And look, I'm human. Like, we all worry about things, right? And but what grounds me every single time is, Natalie, in this moment, you are okay. And I think that's an important reminder, because we all have stresses, right? Like, people are worried how to pay their bills. They're worried about, like, oh, am I gonna have enough food to like feed the family? Like, these kind of things. I know everybody right now, it's like it's hard, right? And everybody has worries. But I think what grounds me whenever I feel anything other than how I want to feel, which is positive, excited, uplifted, joyous and happy, when I feel anything other than that, the question I ask myself constantly is, Natalie, are you okay now? In this present moment, are you okay? Because that is the only moment that truly exists, right? And if we worry about something, it may or may not happen. So if it does happen, you're paying the price twice, right? And if it doesn't happen, then you're just ruining now. So I think it's really important to, like, well, I find that helps just to ground you in the moment. So for anybody that does feel like, oh, well, I can't possibly choose joy because I'm stressed about this, that, and the next thing, that really helps me and may help others listening.
It absolutely will. I call it borrowing trouble. There's trouble in the future, there's trouble in the past, but there is no trouble right now. But I'm borrowing it from the past and future just to have it now, like I want it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to have trouble. And it doesn't make any sense. The hero dies but once, the coward dies 1,000 deaths. Shakespeare. It sometimes helps to blame a faceless other. I'm not going to let them make me feel bad. Who's them? Doesn't really matter. There is no them. It's just a construct. I myself certainly want to feel good now.
Mm-hmm.
So now, there is this other thing about when you're worried about something that might happen in the future, or some guilt or something about the past. What I do is I write it down. It's like my trouble sheet. Okay, these are the things that are bugging me. First of all, I'm not going to let them ruin my present mood. But I am going to come back to them and figure out, what can I do about these things? Mm-hmm. Can I apologize to somebody? That would get rid of some of the past stuff. Well, but they're dead. I'll apologize to them anyway. Maybe they'll hear me. It'll make me feel better. And then I'm going to take it off my list. And if I hear it again, I'm going to slap myself around and, nothing to do about it anymore. End that story. And then if it's something in the future, I definitely can have some control over it. I'll do more preparation for that possible negative event. How will I handle that event if it does occur? Mm-hmm. I find that once I know how I'm going to handle the event, I takes this thing out of, I don't worry about the event anymore. Let it happen. I'm ready for it. Comes preparation. The other things that athletes, particularly Olympic athletes, do that most people don't do is focus. They can focus on one thing perfectly. Nothing is going to distract them. What do the rest of us do? Mostly when we're awake, we've got two media with us that are both going. There's a television set and a cell phone, or there's the smartphone, and I'm in a meeting, but in the meeting, I'm kind of also checking. So we're always distracting ourselves from what is essential to Olympic performance, concentration.
Yeah, it is this focus, and this ability to shut out the noise, whether that be metaphorical noise or physical noise, right? But it's this amazing ability to focus. And we struggle to do that because of, the modern world in which we live. There are so many distractions because there is a lot of people that profit off of us being distracted and unable to focus, right? But there's also, I think, something more intrinsic as well, because in order to focus on any one thing for a period of time, that involves doing a lot of quiet work where there's no applause, where there's no feedback, where there is no instant validation or gratification. It's just you and your sport, whatever your sport is, whether it's business, parenthood, whatever the sport is for you. We have to be able to focus and do a lot of this quiet work that is unseen. And I think many of us struggle with that, which is why we skip preparation and go straight to execution, because that gives us a bit of a dopamine hit. It gives us like, oh, well, somebody clapped or somebody said, well done. And it's, again, like seeking this, seeking feelings outside of ourselves, right? So in order to focus, you need to give that validation to yourself. You don't need anybody else to tell you you're doing a great job or that you're improving. It comes from within to be able to validate yourself, or whatever the feeling is that makes you struggle to focus. And that is something that is hard to learn, especially when you've grown up or lived in a world that kind of rewards distraction and, outward kind of validation, or especially with social media, right? So to be able to focus really requires you to self-regulate, but also self-validate. And then if you're able to do that, you stop, you're not looking for noise anymore. It's just you focusing on you. And when you can do that quiet work continuously, like I always say this, but the work you do in private will always be seen in public eventually. It's like these athletes, how many times have they done that dance, skied that jump, done the bobsleigh? Like how many times have they done that without any audience, without any applause, no gold medals? They have done that relentlessly for years, right? Before they've gone out in public. But guess what? That preparation that they did in private will be seen in public and is being seen in public right now. So I think the ability to focus requires you to be okay with doing unseen, quiet, messy work on yourself again, and again.
The ability to be independent of other people's judgments is a skill that they need to practice. We all need to have that. We've been conditioned to be overly dependent on other people's estimations of us. And we have to retake our own lives. We have to respect ourselves. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to decide and be determined and have a strong intention that we're going to live our lives the way we're going to do it, as Frank Sinatra sings, my way, and not be dependent on the validation externally, because the validation externally has gotten us into a lot of trouble. Trying to please others has gotten us into a lot of trouble, and being dependent on that and becoming overly sensitive and taking aboard their judgments of us has been really denigrating and weakening. So, just discovering that we have a strong self that isn't necessarily an ego, isn't a narcissist, isn't self-centered and doesn't care about other people's feelings. Not at all. None of those things. Just sufficient self-respect. It's lacking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, again, it's this battery like metaphor or analogy that's coming up for me. It's like when we like are seeking things outside of ourselves to make us feel a certain way, we're outsourcing our power, essentially, right? So it's like, oh, I need that accomplishment or accolade to feel like this, or I need that person to tell me I did a great job, or that they appreciate me in order to make me feel a certain way. But again, if you think of the battery, that's us outsourcing our energy into things that we can't actually control. Sure, we can influence, but we can't control it. And a better use of our energy is actually to plug that back into ourselves and to be able to give ourselves those feelings. Because when we give ourselves those feelings, then we're not looking for it elsewhere. We're just literally focused on our performance, like an athlete is. We're not looking and we're not outsourcing any of our needs or desires, because we're giving that to ourselves. And when we give that to ourselves, it allows us to focus. And when we can focus, we can improve. And when we can improve, we get into the flow state. So it's all this chain reaction of what is required in order to move forward. But it is about self-sourcing rather than outsourcing.
Yes. Removal of external dependencies. I don't need anything outside myself to feel joy. I can order myself to feel joy, and then I'll obey myself. And we've been conditioned, and the conditioning goes deeper than our conscious minds. That's what makes it so hard to change, is we're not just, sure, in our conscious minds, we can make all kinds of New Year's resolutions, then we find that we're not capable of sticking to them. It's all that subconscious stuff has created habitual repeat patterns that are very difficult to break. But you can break them with determination. You have to break them little baby steps at a time at first. Then you can take bigger steps, but you have to, like, if you want to give something up, give up 10% of it. And then when you've achieved that, add another 10%, give up. And then when you see that you can really, okay, I've given up 40% already, I'm ready to just give the whole thing up, and I know I can do it, and you do it, and you did it. Then you're really amazed, and hey, this stuff really works.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what Bill and Natalie say. Let me go play back those videos.
Mm-hmm. but that's it, like these incremental small steps, they are the preparation. And if you're willing to not swing just straight for the glory, you don't want the gold medal straight off. Imagine it's like me going down a ski slope being like, yeah, I want the gold medal, and I've never even been down it, right? Like part of the preparation is doing those steps and taking those steps to have those incremental improvements. Because the thing is, when you do the preparation, taking those small incremental steps, the outcome almost becomes an inevitability, because it's who you're becoming as you take these steps. So for me, the growth isn't found in the accomplishment or the accolade or in that gold medal. The accomplishment is found at every step of this journey, because actually the preparation that you're doing is making you the person that is capable of winning that gold medal. So the accomplishment almost just becomes a natural result of all this preparation. So actually the joy and the growth comes from making these small incremental improvements, not from the goal itself.
Knowing that you're actually on the track of doing what you want to do with your life, and you're in control, and you're sticking with it, and you believe in yourself, you start to feel good no matter what happens. You're not subject to the day-to-day ups and downs of, oh, you got a compliment or you got an insult. Those things become shrink in importance. You know you're on your own path to where you want to go, and you're working on the things that you've always been good at, that you really enjoy. And life is life, So if you're not enjoying every moment of life, you're just postponing it to some future moment. Isn't that insane? It's a form of insanity, actually, So the entire culture is somewhat insane.
Mm-hmm.
Getting more insane every day. It's becoming more obvious how insane the whole setup is. Nobody did that on purpose. We didn't set about setting up a civilization that would screw us up, but it's working perfectly to do that. You have the parents who have been brought up, let's say, by parents who just wanted to help them, but their parents decided that the best way to help them would be to be strict and not spoil them. So strict parents lead to strict parents, lead to strict parents, lead to strict parents, and all of those strict parents lead to fascists eventually. Mm. That's where fascism comes from. It's from strict parents.
Mm-hmm. And I think our role here is about breaking that cycle, right? And I think, for many of us, you can think about your own parents and how they raised you. And I'm sure a lot of people, when they have kids, they're like, well, how can I improve upon that? How can I do a better job than what my parents did? And that's not, criticizing anybody, but I think that's a natural instinct, right? Is to want to continue to improve. And I think that's all we can do. And I think the preparation is like, okay, well, what will make me 10% better than than the generation previous, right? I think that's how I think anyway. It's like, how can I improve upon that? And these small incremental improvements individually, but then also collectively, they evolve humanity as a whole, right? So, we might be thinking about our own lives and our own sport of choice and how we can continue to improve incrementally. But then when you zoom out even further, when you look at that on a bigger scale, humanity as a whole continues to improve. And then, that is ultimately the result, because the result is in the journey. So if we can continue to enjoy this experience, or I say continue to enjoy, there's a lot of people that don't enjoy it, but if we can find joy in the experience and know that we're constantly improving, and know that life is happening now, it's not somewhere in the future, it's not somewhere in the past, life is happening now, all those things will help us when it comes to whether it's our daily lives or whether it's our life legacy. All those things will help us as we move forward.
Preparation, practice makes perfect. Our parents just want the best for us, and they do their best job possible. And we all get ideas from the outside, which is not a bad thing. but there's a lot of them, and a lot of them are better than others. And judging which is important and which isn't important, and which is right and which is wrong, has become so complex that people have just defaulted to not think about it. It's too much. I can't deal with it. It's too much complexity. I can't answer these questions. No philosopher has really solved all of this stuff. Nobody knows who's right and who's wrong. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick one ideology and I will follow it. We don't decide that consciously, but unconsciously, that's what we're doing. We go into the path of least resistance, which is usually what our parents, if they're capitalists, communists, whatever they are, they probably imprint on us. And so we fall into whatever it is. It could be a religion. It could be an ideology. It could just be habits that we pick up from our parents. But we're following in a kind of a black and white mimicry mode. And we tend not to make conscious clarifications about any of these complex issues. We answer them in a black and white, the way we have always done it, fashion. And we go through life that way. And at the end of the day, we're exhausted and annoyed. And so the only thing that makes us happy is escapism. So we turn on the TV set or we go to the smartphone and we play and we take our minds off our lives. And it's basically escapism. Dopamine comes out in our brain. We don't feel as bad as we did all day. Then we go to sleep and start all over again. And we haven't addressed any of the profound issues of life. Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living, but we're living unexamined lives. That's because it's too complex. It's too much to think about. That's our impression of it. But if we create private spaces where we can find our passion work, our gift to the universe, our unique nature, who we are, who we really are, and create a plan to exploit that more, leverage that more, move in that direction, and stick to the plan and choose to be joyous in every moment because we're doing what we want to do, at least in our minds. And we're seeing some progress, teensy weensy progress every day in all parts of our lives, in our relationships and our sleep pattern, our immune system is better. Little things are getting better every day. And they were already better than not being alive to begin with. So we have a lot to be grateful for. We can, in those times that we give ourselves to meditate, do yoga, practice, we can also deal with these larger issues, these philosophical issues. We can make progress on them too. Because the space that we need to do it is going to impinge on something. It's either going to take away time from work, which is very hard to do because we need the money, or time from sleep, which is not necessarily a good idea. So the real place where we can take time away from is from the escapism. If we can reduce the number of minutes a day that we're doing the escapism and put the preparation in there, that'll be good.
Yeah. I think, just before we wrap up, that's a really important point, is that a lot of us are spending so much of our lives trying to escape them. But if we spent that time that we currently spend escaping to prepare, right? And when I say prepare, it's preparing to live a life that we don't need to escape from, right? So if we flip that, right, this topic of preparation, we've covered, mental preparation, physical preparation, nature versus nurture, mentally preparing, visualizing, choosing our emotions. But most importantly, rather than escaping, using that time to prepare to create a life we no longer need to escape from. Bill, fabulous conversation today, as always. So, any final thoughts or closing words from you?
Don't forget that time just before you go to sleep.
Yeah, very, very important. So try that tonight for anybody listening. Try and just prepare, mentally visualize and prepare for your day ahead, because you can choose how you want to feel. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, dear listeners, for another wonderful episode. We will be back next month with episode 20. See you then.
See ya.